Let's talk mobile money now. You, of course, will remember last week, social media went agog after subscribers to a particular telecom company lamented that commercial banks disconnected them from banking channels. Of course, this came on the heels of a dispute between telecom companies and banks over the sum of 42 billion naira. Telcos claimed uh, deposit money banks are owing them for services provided by the MNOs through the unstructured supplementary service data. That's the USSD code that you use. What's all this about? And how do we forestall a recurrence? Chief Deolu Banjo joins us this morning. He is President, National Association of Telecom Subscribers. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, he's with Ikechukwu Nnamani, who is chairman of the Association of Licensed Telecommunications Operators of Nigeria. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Oh, he is, by the way, joining us virtually from Lekki. Well, Mr. Nnamani, let me begin with you. First of all, what made this happen in the first place? Why did this even have to happen at all? Ultimately, it's supposed to be a convenient and convivial relationship between the telcos and the banks. And then this, how did it come about?
Okay, thank you so much, and thanks for having me. To get this properly understood, it may be important to do a quick explanation of really what this is all about. Basically, the banks have found out that to make service delivery to the subscribers of the banks more efficient, they need to depend on what we call USSD services. But before now, the USSD service were mainly offered by the operators or used by the operators in the area of maybe recharging your phone with airtime, checking your account balance in terms of your airtime, used for such service, value-added services mainly, to subscribe to services. But eventually, so the operators on their own side were using it. Eventually, the banks also saw the need to use it and apply to the regulator, who also issued USSD codes to the banks or the financial institutions, because it's not just only banks. Now, for the financial sectors to be able to use it, they depended or used to depend on the infrastructure of the telcos, for which they would normally pay them agreed fees to use those services. Then the banks, in turn, would charge the subscribers a particular fee that is charged to your account for any of the services you use. Maybe you are doing authentication of transaction, doing transfers, or any of that from the banking side. So, unfortunately, a time came when the banks asked for a reduction in terms of the fee that they pay to the telcos. And the regulator, being that the regulator, NCC, is the one that issued all short codes, both the one the banks use, both the one the telcos use. Every short code is issued by the regulator, Nigerian Communication Commission. So they are a full participant in the service across the two sectors. The regulator intervened and reached some agreement where there was a new price that was agreed that the banks would pay the telcos. For some reason, the banks were not too satisfied with that and opted instead that the telcos should charge the subscribers for the use of USSD service that is bank originated. So this, the telcos felt was going to be charging the subscribers twice, because if the banks are already charging the subscribers, for the telcos to turn around again to also charge the subscribers, that was not acceptable. So pretty much the regulatory bodies, both the CBN, NCC, and the Minister of Communication and Digital Economy all intervened to see how this could be resolved, which ultimately culminated in the joint meeting that was had some time ago and supposedly there was an agreement reached on the way forward in such a way that the ultimate total cost to the subscriber would have reduced. But there was not an issue of outstanding payments. For the period, the bank pretty much told the telcos to be charging the subscribers, and the telcos says they won't charge the subscribers. The bank literally has said they won't pay for it because they had communicated to the telcos to charge the subscribers. So that is one of the problems that is outstanding in the area of debt that the telcos believe is owed to them, because those services were provided, the bank used those channels, but the bank are simply saying the subscriber should have been charged for it, which the telcos have been issued said no, because that would be like charging the subscribers twice for the same service. Now, the second part of the issue, because we need to understand that there are actually two issues going on. The second part now have to do with when the telcos are using the bank services. In other words, this has to do with when subscribers pay for their airtime from their bank account. In this case, the banks are now acting like agents to the telco, no different from the people you see on the street selling recharge card or any of the channels that the banks have, the telcos have available for subscribers to recharge and take access to their service. What the telcos do in this case is a reversal of the payment plan. While in the first case, the first example, the banks are the ones that pay the telcos. In the second case, the telcos are the ones to pay the banks, because it's a telco service that is being done through the banking channel. And for this, there was an agreement in terms of commission that the banks would get, just like every other channel that the telcos use when the services are done. And based on some analysis that the telcos did, they felt that commission needed to be reviewed and reviewed downwards, hopefully that it will also translate in savings to the subscribers if there's a general reduction in those charges. Unfortunately, the banks refused to accept that reduction, and that was what led to them cutting off some of the telcos from being used as a channel for that particular service. There are several other services that were not interrupted, but that particular service that the banks were offering to the telcos as agents to them, that was what was affected, purely due to disagreement in terms of the service fee and commission that should be paid to the banks.
Ultimately, you know, Mr. Engineer, that it is the telecom subscriber that suffers when these two elephants fight. So, Chief Banjo, first of all, it would, I want to suspect that you may have guessed that this could happen if certain steps were not taken.
First and foremost, quite honestly, for whatever the reason might be, why should it be the subscriber that will now suffer the plight of these two elephants? To start with, the banks do not have any regard for their customers. Why should they, resort to just stopping a channel that they are used to, because, to them, they are the banks are now the secondary beneficiary of the channel. The main beneficiary of the primary beneficiary of the channel are the telcos. So they don't carry hoots for whatever it is for their customers. They just blocked it. The right to be informed, we have it. If anything is happening, let the bank say, in view of 1 or 2, 3 things that is happening in the industry, we may not be able to continue with this service in the next 72 hours. We have a right to know.
But they send text messages. When you throw that USSD code on, the response you will get is that this service is not available.
Only at the time of use. They would have informed us before now. It's shocking. A lot of people lost many things. In fact, the bank should apologize to Nigerian subscribers for just that singular act. Why should they just unilaterally because of a disagreement.
Unfortunately, we weren't able to get a banker to get into this conversation. But talking about the role that the NCC, what role do you think the NCC could have played to forestall this kind of activity?
Thank you very much. You see, in other climes, it's unfortunate that in Nigeria, the banks have refused to, well, maybe a regulation or something, have refused to, get the Kenyan model, the mobile money, the Kenyan model. With that, everything would have just been with the telco and the subscriber. I mean, I don't know why NCC is still agreeing with the central bank for us to be largely dependent on whatever the banks now are doing. For example, sir, it is these same telcos that have the USSD code that the banks are using for us to charge. Like he said, they are also agents. So they are taking a lot of, jobs from Nigerians. That's not their core business. Banking is their core business. And a lot of Nigerians, particularly now in COVID times, they want to begin fully engaged. They want to be commercially engaged, get all this from the banks, and then give it to people who are out there looking for jobs, looking for things to do. The NCC should at least, right now, in these COVID times, they should at least ensure that they work with the bank. And let's look at the Kenyan model.
Is there a way, this Kenyan model that you're talking about, is there a role that the Nigerian, the telecom subscriber himself or herself can play, whether individually or cumulatively, to ensure that these things do not happen again? Because just as you said, we can't even begin to quantify the losses and the risks and the challenges that people had as a result of that.
Thank you. You see, everything, the subscriber is being offered a service. And it is whatever service that the subscriber is offered, he works on, So it is boiling down to the regulator, particularly the two regulators. But this time, 80% of it is the NCC. NCC should please regulate in such a way that telecoms is not subjected to another sectoral lordship. Because what is happening is that telecoms is now being subservient, in the industry of telecom services, is now being subservient to another sector. NCC should be on top of the game.
Okay.
We are looking up to NCC to do that.
What do you expect the NCC to do?
To ensure that all these plight, the consumer is suffering through the banks, let them quickly tell the bank, look, this is not your core business. Why should you now be punishing subscribers because you have whatever rift or whatever, between you? It should not be the telecom subscriber to suffer.
It's in the event that the NCC is unable to take the kind of proactive action you are expecting, what options lie there with the telcos? Is the telco, or is the subscriber, is the subscriber completely helpless?
Not particularly and not totally helpless. I must say that after all this, let me also tell you that the banks messed up Easter celebrations for a lot of subscribers last week. That was Easter period. In fact, like I said earlier, they must apologize now. After all these things, a lot of talks are going on. We may be in court if it's not, if all this do not play out to the advantage of the subscriber. We may have to seek a court redress.
Okay, let me not begin to jump the gun, so to speak. Let me go back to Engineer Namani. So where do you see these conversations going? Because from some of the, I don't know if you first of all want to react to some of the things you've heard Chief Banjo talk about.
Yeah, thank you so much. I totally am in full agreement with Chief Banjo. Number one, the telcos have always seen telecom service as a critical national service, critical national infrastructure that must not be disrupted except it is by an act of God. For instance, the 45 billion that today the banks are refusing to pay, if the telcos have done the same thing the bank just did, they would have cut them off before that debt piled up. When they say they were not going to pay, that subscribers should be charged double for the same service, and the telco says no, it's not in the best interest of the country to have subscribers charged twice for the same service. If the telcos are taking this same step, they would have cut them off months ago, and that 45 billion would never have piled up. But because the telcos understand that this is a critical national service, and the citizens of Nigerians must be connected at all times, the telcos never disconnected the banks. They never cut them off. They continue to offer them service, even when they were not getting paid for it. So in reality, the banks truly need to understand that everybody must have the interest of the country at heart. This right of the citizen should come before money, and it is very important they understand this. The second part is that, yes, the operators have opened additional channels to ensure that beyond just the banks, other fintech channels are now open for subscribers to use. We don't hope this happens again, but if it does, you can be rest assured that the banks are not going to be the only options available. Secondly, the regulator working with the CBN have already allowed the telcos to be licensed under the Payment Services Bank model, which is similar to what you have in Kenya that Chief was talking about. So Nine Mobile have the license, they rolled out their service. Glo is licensed. We believe MTN and the rest of them will be licensed soon. So very soon, the banks will be able to actually offer end-to-end financial services using that license. And we just beg that the CBN and all the regulatory agencies should issue those licenses to as many telcos as need it or apply for it, so that the financial inclusion can truly take place. We are talking about digital economy. We can't have a digital economy if the telecom infrastructure is not empowered to provide these services that the country needs. So in all, we believe this is a teachable moment, but more importantly and most critical is the fact that the telcos need to be able to work with the financial sector. The telcos have tried to do that without compromising on the quality of service.
Well, and the money for this to work in a way that it will be seamless, that the subscribers will not be at the mercy of anyone else. What has to be done? Now, we're talking about the collaboration between the banks and the telcos, and at the helm of affairs, so to speak, will be the two regulators. What kind of conversation should be going on between the two regulators, the NCC and the CBN?
I think, in fairness to both regulators, they work closely together. Just as I explained with the part one of the problem, because it happens to be hard two parts now, right? They came together, called a joint meeting. The Honorable Minister was actively involved, and agreement was reached. The only problem was the moment the bankers left the meeting, they changed their minds. They refused to honor the agreement that was reached. You can't blame the regulators for that. If the banks don't honor agreements that are reached, you really can't blame the regulators for that. So I believe, except the banking regulator have to now
just a moment. Just a moment. While we cannot blame the regulator for the activities, for the I don't know what word to use, the disobedience of to agreement, so to speak, isn't there an authoritative power given to the NCC or the CBN to do whatever it is that they need to do so that that kind of thing doesn't happen again?
Well, I believe the CBN can call the banks to order. This is not a Telcom or NCC's problem. From every information available, the problem, I am sorry to say, is coming from the banking sector. They are the ones not keeping to the agreement. They are the ones that don't care if the citizens are disconnected and people suffer. They are the ones that are disconnecting people or not allowing transactions to happen through their platform. As I said, there's 45 billion debt today that if the telcos decided to act this way, would not have been there because they would have disconnected the banks from day one. But they never did that. And today they are suffering for trying to put the country ahead of personal interest. So I believe the CBN should be able to call the banking sector to order in terms of letting them keep to the agreement that have been jointly agreed to. I truly believe the CBN can act on that.
All right, and Chief Ogumajo, this matter is not going to go away unless the issues are resolved. So, as you said, some people would have accrued some measure of losses, even if it is emotional. Do you see a need to call out the NCC or the particular telecom operator in charge, to operator involved, to pay back, so to speak, to compensate the subscriber?
Thank you very much. That's one of those things I was going to say by the time I did tell you earlier that we may be going to court. One, imagine, does it mean that what he has failed to mention is the bankers committee, are they more powerful than the CBN governor that regulates? Why should the bankers committee now refuse to implement a simple agreement between two sectoral heads, the telecom sector and the banking sector? And this affects everybody is banking, everybody is using telecom services. Those two are key to the economy of this country. And there you are, the banks have just unilaterally, totally just cut off subscribers. I mean, we will still, when they finish, maybe by next week or so, week after, but definitely by end of April or first week in May, we're going to have a national meeting.
Well, let's just hope that it never gets to that extent that you're talking about.
Hopefully.
Engineer Namani, you want to appeal to the subscribers right now, especially about this matter? We hope we'll be able to get the bankers to have a conversation with us on this matter anytime soon. But at the end of the day, as I said earlier, it's about the subscribers.
Absolutely. For sure. And if you follow what at least one of the major operators put out yesterday, they sent out a press information. First, they immediately, once they realized what the banks did, they rescinded their decision. They decided to give the banks the commission they are insisting on. They did that 100% because of the interest of the citizens and the subscribers. If not, the telcos would have said, hey, this is the commission and we are insisting. But because they were mindful of the suffering that subscribers were going through, they immediately said, okay, if you insist on getting this money, we'll pay you the money. Despite the fact that by paying that money to the bank, subscribers are going to pay more for it, subscribers are going to suffer, and the telcos are also not going to make money. But they decided to just for speed storage and for subscribers to be able to get back online, they agreed to pay the banks that money. And the banks may feel it's a victory for them, but in all sincerity, it's not the right thing to do. So while I'm just saying this to say that already the telcos have already done something, and that is why today the service is back. The telcos are the ones bearing that cost today for as long as the banks insist on collecting that particular commission. Secondly, the telcos have also opened up additional forms that subscribers can use beyond the bank, so that as more platforms come online, then subscribers will have choice and options, so that hopefully we won't have this problem available again in the future. And thirdly, as long as the telcos are given the right licenses that enables them to offer full financial services, as is done in other climates, then the telcos will be able to roll out service end to end and will not depend on the banks to be able to offer these services to the subscribers. Once we can get those three things done, I believe very soon this will be a thing of the past. But irrespective of that, it is still very important to state that the outstanding money that the banks are owing the telcos needs to be paid. That service was provided, and the banks need to pay for it, because it's not fair to say that the telco should collect the money from subscribers, the same subscribers that are already charged by the banks for the same service.
All right. Well, what I was hoping that you would say number 4 or number 5, that you are going to compensate subscribers. But don't answer that question yet. Maybe you are still thinking about it. Engineer Ikechukwu is chairman of the Association of Telecom Companies of Nigeria, as well as Chief Deolu Banjo, President, National Association of Telecom Subscribers. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and thoughts this morning on the program.
Thank you very much.